every time I come back, I feel this deep connection as if my roots are in this land. And when I smell the salt air and I swim in the river, I feel as if I'm connected not only with myself, but with the lineage. My name is Edie Hartshorne, and I'm a descendant of Lucretia Mott. She was part of this place. Her whole life, she was really carrying the message of the Quakers of follow thy inner light, and she was very active in the abolition of slavery, always working for justice and equality for all beings. This is a very interesting little piece, and this is a photograph of John Brown. John Brown led the revolt at Harper's Ferry, and it was an armed revolt, and he wanted the slaves to take up arms. He was part of the abolition movement. And while he was doing this, his wife stayed with the Motts, Lucretia Mott and James. And I think that's probably why the picture still came through to us. Remember them that are in bonds as bound with them. And that was very much Lucretia Mott's message, that we are part of them and we're not free if they're slaves. Here's the little bedroom for new babies. And this is my parents' bedroom. And I've just been wondering about this closet, because I've never seen a closet with a door with a window. So this is just my curiosity, but I'm wondering if maybe slaves hid in here, and then it was a bigger, possibly connected to the attic, and then if the slave could peek through the window when he got the signal that it was okay to come out. But this is my imagination, so we'll have to check on that. So now I'm going to show you the room that was my room when I was a little girl growing up here. And I used to lie in bed at night and peer out that screen, because all the big cousins would be playing kick the can. These big grown-up 15-year-old boys, and of course I had a crush on them. And I would lie here with my nose against the screen, just wishing I was old enough so I could go play with them. Yeah. And I always came to this little room. Now I want to show you the back of the house. This is relatively new, built in probably the 1890s. This is an old kind of stairway. These houses have very steep stairwells. And then you can see the nails are square. This is all original 19th century. And these boards also are. So the next room I want to show you is the room I came to as an adult with my own children in this house. So this is my favorite room in the house. And this is where my husband and I slept. And then when I was playing with the kids and going to the beach, my husband worked at that little desk, writing mathematics. And then when it was too noisy, he'd go out and work in Eeyore's eyesore, little teeny cabin out there in the woods. And when we were little kids, we would all come out here during the thunderstorms. And then when we were adolescents, we'd play spin the bottle out here. So this room has had many memories, and I love it. I love the breeze. I love looking out while I'm in bed. And now when I come, I meditate in the morning and just enjoy the sounds, the crickets at evening, and then the smells of the water and the sound of the wind. Yeah. So it's very nourishing. Every room used to have a little sign, and this was a garden room, I think. And I've slept in every single one of these rooms. This was a slit because it's very little. This was Eileen's room. And the room that I grew up sleeping in was called a peacock room. And people still people still use those names in the family. And this is the way down into the kitchen. And this room is the dining room. The same, it's exactly the same as when I grew up, the same as when my grandparents were here. And we just had dinner with 19 cousins. So coming back and experiencing the cycle of new babies and old people. My mother grew very old in this house, and she was handicapped and had a handicapped bathroom. And at the end of her life, I always came for several weeks and took care of her, as did my sister and brothers. So I experienced the whole cycle of life when I'm here. And now I'm the oldest, so my twin brother and I are the oldest and the next ones, which is amazing to think about. So I'm going to open this housebook box that has housebooks from 1890 to 1901. Every year there was one housebook made by my ancestors. So I'm taking these out. I'm going to show you a few paintings from Aunt May. These are from 1905 to 1911 or so. And my cousins have a set of housebooks from 1890 to 1901. This was Anna Davis Hallowell. I think she was Lucretia Mott's great-granddaughter. And this was Richard Price Hallowell, who brought his family here and built the House of Seven Chimneys. This is my Aunt Lucretia Mott Hallowell, as a young woman.
And that's not the historic Lucretia Mott you were talking about?
No, that's her great-granddaughter, my aunt. Here's a photograph of the salt houses that my great-aunt May turned into an artist studio. And this is along the river with windmills everywhere. This is my father and his sister as children. These are all the Hallowells who were related to my father and his sister. And this is actually in West Medford. They used to drive from West Medford down to Bass River. It took them 2 days in a horse and buggy. So that's the family at that time. This is me, and this is my twin brother right there. And here we are again. This is me, the smaller one, Edie and Hal. So I guess we're a little under 2 in those pictures. This is my dad and his sister and their dog. And the dog is being like a pony. Aunt May did these paintings, so all these watercolors were hers. And she probably wrote in the books also. And they would chronicle who came to visit. Here's Bass River, the way it looked in the turn of the century. And her art is in museums, mostly her portraits. But these watercolors were everywhere. And a lot of them got burned here. But we have the house books. Let's see. Here's another one, just giving the feeling of dusk. Here's the windmill, probably the same windmill that's been moved. And these are pictures of my aunt, and they look exactly the way I looked when I was that age. And a number of them look just like my granddaughter. So just looking through this book, I feel such a continuity. See, these are by friends, and many women. I think women certain Victorian women who had leisure, many of them painted in New England. My mom started painting when she was, I think she was in her late 70s. She had to stop skiing, and she took up painting. And when she was in her 80s, I used to paint with her. I'd come down and spend time with her. And she had her first art exhibit when she was 80. Everybody was a sailor. My mom was a big sailor. She taught us all to sail. And we all sailed. And I remember the first time our parents let my twin brother and I go out alone in these little beetle cats. They sort of pushed us out alone. And we immediately locked the boom. The sail swung out. And then we were drifting down the river with the sail flapping and our parents waving. And so that was kind of how we grew up. So you really can see the feeling of how undeveloped it was. There weren't tons of houses. And when we were kids, it was like this. I can just imagine myself at that age. And then I can sense how this place has a very special resonance. And it's probably not verbal. I think it's just a deep-rooted connectedness to the sea, the salt air, and the privilege of this extraordinary place.